It's time for the Financial Crisis Talk Center with Ken Gross and David Einstandig from Thav Gross.
Credit card debt is number one. I view it as financial cancer.
40% of your gross income is going to just pay the debt service. You got no chance of getting out.
I would give up my credit score to get rid of debt.
Here's your host, Ken Gross.
All right, well, welcome back to the Talk Center. Our last segment, we talked about Bill and Betty. We're doing a case study in this segment, and it is Chuck and Cathy. Before we do it, though, I said each segment I want to start out with a quote from JFK. To state the facts frankly is not to despair the future nor indict the past. The prudent heir takes careful inventory of his legacies and gives a faithful accounting to those whom he owes an obligation of trust. Just think about it in terms of financial issues. It says face reality, and I kind of like that. All right, Chuck and Cathy. I'm going to give you a fact pattern. Our last segment, we were talking about Bill and Betty, and we interjected the problems and issues that you have when you have an IRA, which is a retirement asset, and you also have a tax debt of $100,000. How can you manage to make sure you protect the tax, your IRA, you get the taxes paid, how you use Chapter 13 to accomplish that if you can't get a workable arrangement for payment of the taxes. In Bill and Betty's case, it worked out really well because they had a lot of credit card debt and they had a second mortgage that they could lien strip. Now I want to talk about Chuck and Cathy, and we're interjecting a new issue and a common issue, student loans. So here are the facts, and then we'll do some analysis. Income, $110,000 a year. Previously, they were making $300,000, but they've come on hard times. They lost their business. Now they're working with jobs. Student loan debt, $75,000. Credit card debt, $100,000. Tax debt, $75,000 is income taxes. Another $50,000 from when their business failed. That's payroll taxes. House is underwater. There's no second mortgage. There's really no equity in the house. It's close. So it's not a lien strip situation for Chapter 13. Their cars are leased. They've got $200,000 still hanging out in their IRA. They would like to hang on to that. So we've got IRS collection problem. This is Jenny's taken us through the analysis before. There's no streamline available because it's more than $50,000. You have an issue here. Is some of this tax potentially dischargeable in a bankruptcy? What's the difference between the payroll taxes versus the income taxes? And same thing, can they grab the IRA with the $200,000? Now we have student loan. This is what we haven't talked about yet. And I want to say, Brian, how does the student loan mesh and fit into this financial situation for Chuck and Cathy?
Well, let's be realistic. Student loans are their own animal. They are a vicious disease that's going on in this country. There's $3 trillion worth of student loans hanging out there, and the numbers keep increasing every year.
Wait. Now, why are they so bad if they finance and provide you the money to go to college? I mean, what's so bad about that? I mean, when you say bad, you mean because they're non-dischargeable? What's bad about them?
I mean, because indentured servitude was outlawed many years ago. Because the reality is that you come out of I meet with more and more people who have student loans in the hundreds of thousands of dollar range because college has gotten so expensive. And you come out of college with $200,000, $300,000 worth of student loans.
That's not just for a 4-year BS in accounting. I don't think.
You know what? Whether it's 4 years or 6 years with a PhD or a master's.
I had a client call 2 weeks ago with a daughter who just graduated from a 4-year institution, and it was about
$225,000.
$225,000 in student loans.
Wow.
And you know what? She's got a job coming out of college.
Making
about $45,000 a year.
Yeah, that's the problem.
You can't pay over $2,000 a month on $225,000 worth of debt, making $45,000 a year.
All right, so we have some policy issues in our government and in our society with regard to that. But now let's narrow it down. So it's non-dischargeable. What are the options when it's non-dischargeable, what does that mean to you as a bankruptcy attorney? What does that mean to me if I'm the client when you say student loans are non-dischargeable?
Well, if a student loan is non-dischargeable, that means that after you go through a bankruptcy, whether it's a Chapter 7, which is a debt elimination bankruptcy, or a Chapter 13, which is structured reorganization over time, at the end of that bankruptcy process, you will still owe either A, all of the student loan, or B, a substantial portion that did not receive payment during the Chapter 13 process.
Brian, I got to ask this question. Does it make a difference? Obviously, the student loan, is it just one of the spouses that has the entire student loan, or does it make a difference in that regard? And also, could a parent or somebody else guarantee a student loan and get into the same problem?
Parents guarantee student loans. There's co-signed what we call a parent plus loan, where the parent assumes responsibility with the child.
When the parent does that, is it non-dischargeable as to the parent as well?
It's non-dischargeable as to both. There are very few reasons.
There's a word that comes with after that comes to mind when that happens, but I'm not going to say it.
Well,
that
yeah, there are very few there's very little ability to get yourself out of that type of student loan. Actually, one of the only ways for the parent to avoid their responsibility on that loan is actually to have, unfortunately, the student pass away.
Well, then this parent's not liable on the debt?
There are ways to go through the student loan. It depends whether it's a public or private student loan.
You don't want
there
to
are
lose
ways
a child.
to go through the student loan ombudsman process.
Is that only on a GSA, on a guarantee?
These are all government.
Honey, I made you some tea.
That's sick.
But in general, there are ways to deal with these student loans.
That is terrible.
As long as you are.
Okay, Brian, talk about, though, does it matter if it's loans that both the husband and wife have jointly?
Well, it's very rare that a husband and wife would have student loans together.
Well, each. One may have 30, one may have 35.
But they're not jointly liable on the debts.
No, right.
But they could be, because one of the options the government gives you when you're consolidating your loans is to consolidate them with your husband and wife together, because it gives you a long-term payment plan.
What would you say to anyone who called you up asking advice with regard to that?
That's an extremely bad idea. 50% of all marriages end in divorce. You're going to be tied into that person for the rest of your life.
That's the kind of thing that they shouldn't even offer. That's the problem with some of our systems. Is that's an opportunity and an option that shouldn't be made available, because people make the mistake of electing it, and then once you elect it, you can't unelect.
It sounds like a no-document loan. What happened then?
It's the worst. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we have to start drilling into this issue of what do you do with the student loan. We'll be back.
I couldn't get out of the car. I couldn't run or exercise. I couldn't work.
Dr. Lewis Radin believes that pain shouldn't have to wait. His Spine Specialist of Michigan is a comprehensive center dedicated to helping you manage pain now. Expect the latest techniques and personalized care. Why suffer another minute?
He's the best. I tell people that he's the one that saved my life.
Make your appointment with Dr. Radin. Call 248-792-9496.
Are you struggling to pay your mortgage? Afraid of foreclosure and the financial mess it can cause? Time is not on your side. Call Alan Stalter, the short sale specialist. For years, Alan has been helping distressed homeowners navigate through the short sale process. His experience will get you out of your home without the credit score damage that follows foreclosure. If you want a fresh start, you need to call Alan Stalter, the short sale specialist, 248-854-3829 or MetroDetroitShortSale.com.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ben Johnson. Automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ben Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
Do you have tax problems, unfiled returns? Facing levies on wages in your property? You need an expert, not a cartoon character or salesman. Thav Gross is your solution.
You need to look at the big picture. That's what we do. We develop a plan that's right for you.
I had major tax problems. I didn't know what to do.
We did. We sat down together and solved your tax problem.
No more letters, no more phone calls. They saved me.
Call Thav Gross, 888-235-HELP.
Going from hourly to salary seemed like a good career move, but now you're working 60 hours a week instead of 40, and you aren't getting paid any of that extra time. You're stuck, right? Wrong. You can be on salary and still be entitled to overtime. If you've been wrongly denied such pay, you may be entitled to that and more. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Chuck and Kathy, and we're running through a scenario where they've got $75,000 in student debt. They've got $125,000 in tax liability. They're making $110,000. We're trying to figure out what is their best option from the standpoint of, can they use Chapter 13 to solve their problems, or do we have to come up with a different plan? Here's the way the numbers play out, and then we'll go with it. Let's assume, first of all, Brian, give me a fast definition of what the term DMI means.
This is disposable monthly income, and what it is it's what, after you follow through what's called the means test or the disposable income test, what does the government think you have left over to pay towards your creditors?
All right, let's
it's
assume
not what you actually have left over. It's what it could match.
So you have
but
to.
It's what the government says
you have to build.
have to have
you
over.
correct or false? True or false? You have to build your plan based upon the DMI.
Correct.
Okay,
Brian,
all right, so in this case, hang
tell
on,
them to define assume.
The what? Oh,
Well, that has to do with
Isn't that
two
your
different
favorite line?
people and making something out of you and me.
Okay.
It's important.
I don't understand the assume line.
I'll explain it to you off air.
That's fine. DMI in this case is $2,500 a month. But you also have expenses of administration, trustees' fees, legal fees. So let's assume that's going to run $250 a month for the life of the plan. You're going to have $2,250 available to pay per month on this assumption times 60 months gives you $135,000.
It's perfect.
Okay, now
I love it.
I got a $75,000 student loan.
Uh-huh.
I got $50,000 of business tax debt, $75,000 of personal debt, $100,000 of credit card debt. How does the $135,000 get split up if we file the Chapter 13?
The IRS gets $125,000.
All right, so 50 goes for the business debt, 75 goes for the personal tax debt. So that's $125,000. The taxes are paid in full; they're gone.
Right.
So Jenny, we don't have to worry about the taxes. All right. Now, what about this? What about the credit card debt and the student loans?
They share $10,000.
Okay.
On a pro rata basis.
Now, in that case, the $10,000. All right. So let's assume it's 75 versus 100. So 2,500 is going to go
$10,000 out of $175,000.
Yeah, so basically 7,500 goes to the credit card. And then are you done with the credit cards? Or do you have to pay back the credit cards the rest of their debt?
At the end of the day, the credit cards through
Are
the Chapter
done.
13 are discharged and completely gone.
Okay. So
What
all
would
we have
happen
left
in
in
this
this
situation if we didn't have the tax debt, because if they don't have money in an IRA under these facts, they may qualify for an offer. So if we filed an offer first and the taxes went away, would that be better or worse for
Well,
them?
in that case,
You mean an offer in compromise, Jenny?
That's correct.
You see, and then what it comes down to is okay. Yes, Jenny's right. If we can get rid of the tax debt for pennies on the dollar,
Then
so
we
to
could get
speak.
rid of the student loan. Well, let me back up a second because you jumped ahead one little bit.
But you didn't jump the shark. So.
No. So the bottom line is even though the credit cards get maybe $5,000, $6,000 of that last $10,000, the other $94,000 is discharged, vanished, and gone. But the student loan, if it only gets $4,000 or $5,000 against the $75,000, at the end of the 13, you're still going to owe the balance on the student loan plus
actually,
interest.
You're going to owe a lot more.
Because
your
of
student loan
accrued
will
interest?
continue to accrue. The average student loan interest rate being somewhere between 6% and 9%. You're probably going to come out of the Chapter 13 owing $25,000 to $30,000 more than you went in.
Now that stinks, but you can't. You're not allowed to pay the interest as you go in the 13 because you don't have the
can't-
DMI
no,
is going other
because
places.
your student loan, even though it's not dischargeable, in turn is also treated just like a credit card for
Hold
the
on, but
purposes
we
of
have
bankruptcy.
to talk about though. What if you
So
did
with
nothing?
the interest accruing.
What if you did nothing? Where would you be? How would you live day to day? And what if you did a 13? Because
Well, the
if wait a
13
minute, the credit card company starts suing you and coming after you, you got to deal with that. If the other debtors start coming after you, you got to deal with that. If the IRS is coming after you, you got to deal with that. So how do you sleep at night under scenario
the Chapter 13 is actually a great concept for just giving you the breathing room to reorganize your debt and restructure it. But at the end of the day, student loans are still a disease. So now, if we back away from the Chapter 13 and we say, let's take each issue segmented, can we do something about it? So Jenny says we can do something with the taxes.
I want to make sure everyone gets it. At the conclusion of this process, we've gotten rid of the credit card debt, we've gotten rid of the tax debt. However, the student loan, which started at $75,000, it's going to get paid maybe $4,000. We have to crunch the number, but interest will have accrued on that debt over the 5 years. But Brian is saying the student loan debt's going to be $95,000 or whatever at the end of the 5 years. That's still a problem. The benefit is we did get rid of all the tax debt. We got rid of all the credit card debt. Now that we're at this point, and I've made that point. Now, what are our other alternatives? One, Jenny already raised, was before we filed the Chapter 13, maybe if we would have gone in and done an offer and compromise on the taxes and got rid of the tax debt, and we'll talk about how we do that shortly. If that happened, Brian, then would we be able to get rid of the student loan in the Chapter 13, or would it work?
Again, unfortunately, the student loan gets treated the same as a credit card. So now you've got the same pool of money. $2,200.
But I got rid of the whole taxes, so don't I have enough money with my $135,000?
So there's $135,000
divided up with the credit cards.
It's going to go pro rata, student loan, and credit cards.
So the IRS debt's different because it got a priority and it got paid before the unsecured debt.
Which is why you want to utilize Chapter 13.
But the student loan doesn't.
Right, but it's a casualty of the situation.
Hold on. Is your payment under the student loan going to change if you owe $75 or you owe $95?
You know what? That's what happens is if you're not paying your student loan, you're going into default. When you're in the Chapter 13, you're held to be not in default because the government can't collect from you during that Chapter 13.
So at the end of the day, my payment is my payment. It may go for a longer period of time.
But that accrued interest hurts you.
It hurts you, but I get to live and sleep and breathe and be with my family.
Well, yeah, but
but there's a whole bunch of things we can do about these student loans.
Different alternatives.
There may be, but you got to do something.
Oh, no question, you got to do something. At best, you can get rid of the taxes. We'll be back after the break.
You like your job. What you don't like is the way your boss has been treating you. He's making comments about how you look instead of your work, and he's been touching you inappropriately. If you complain, is he allowed to fire you? Absolutely not. Unwelcome sexual comments, advances in contact are illegal in the workplace. Make him pay. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't, or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
Double Action, shooting center and gun shop. For the largest selection of guns, accessories, and ammunition, Double Action is your only pro gun shop. And now you can train with the best in our basic CCW course. With the most comprehensive curriculum, the best resources, and most accomplished staff. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. Double Action is the only place to get your CCW or renewal. Double Action. We're on DeQuinder and Madison Heights.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ben Johnson. Automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ben Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
Carrying too much debt? Dump your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
All right, welcome back. Before we get and we finish up and we figure out what Chuck and Cathy are supposed to do, quick announcements. Again, Financial Crisis Analyzer is finally up and operational. You want to go to our website, financialcrisistalkcenter.com. Click on the little click here, free financial analyzer. You put in your data. It sends you a report of what your options are. It covers all the issues. Do I qualify for a loan mod? Would a short sale work? Is Chapter 13 viable? Chapter 7 viable? What do I do with tax issues? It's free.
Now,
Can't
keep
be
in mind,
free.
that's not the end of the story. That's the beginning of the chapter, because quite often you need to know how to utilize and manipulate those options to maximize your potential.
Absolutely. The reason why I developed it is most people are, financial issues are personal to people. You don't want to share it with that many people. So this is a chance. You go to your computer, you sit there alone, you put the information in. You're not going to get solid gold coming out of the computer, believe me. But it's an analysis in a program that I wrote and developed that analyzes these issues. It gives you guidance of what your options are with the freedom of not having to discuss it with anyone as an initial point. Your next step should be look at your options and then get some help, get some assistance, make some plans.
We need to emphasize it's a secure portal. We do not sell or transfer any of the data to any third party, unlike many of the other internet outfits.
Correct. Seminar coming up, 2014 Road to Success, Wednesday, January 15th. New topics. We're expanding the topics beyond critical financial issues, importance of budgeting in the home and business, how to plan for your parents' elder years in terms of Medicaid planning, as well as how to make sure their retirement income is sufficient to live on, what steps you have to take in order to do that. I want to thank our sponsors, Venn Johnson Law, Gold Star Law, Samasco Law, Double Action Shooting Range and Gun Shop, Spine Specialists of Michigan, new sponsors, Cardiology Associates of Michigan, and Elite REO Services, Alan Stalter, real estate broker. We're going to be getting our sponsors on as guests on the show as well and talk about their businesses in the weeks to come. Thanks to Johnny Pomodoros, our gift certificate sponsor, and Detroit Popcorn. And also, Johnny Pomodoros is going to be running a special great gift fruit baskets and trays for the holidays starting now through the end of the year. If you mention Financial Crisis Talk Center, when you go to order one, you get $5 off any tray or basket over $40. So be sure, and you can say FCTC, Financial Crisis, say that radio show on WDFN. Anything you say, make sure Dan gives you the discount. If he doesn't, you call me, and I'll take care of the problem.
It won't be used against you in a court of law.
All right, back to Chuck and Cathy. Here's the issue. If we go and put him into a Chapter 13 after Jenny settles the tax debt, I'm going to have $135,000 available to pay. I have $100,000 of credit card debt, $75,000 student loan. How does that money get divvied up? Can I just give the $100,000, the $75,000 to the student loan?
Nope. $75,000 student loan is treated just like a credit card. What Jenny is suggesting to do is to resolve the tax debt outside of a bankruptcy. Great concept. But then we're going to stay outside of bankruptcy. There is no point in putting these people back into a bankruptcy when we can do better for them outside of bankruptcy.
But I want to illuminate why. If you
Because
take that
you're gonna take
the $135,000 of that money,
$125,000 of it, the $135,000 is all going to the credit cards and the student loans.
Whereas if we did it other ways, we can come out with a better result.
Right.
We don't want that much money go. Bottom line, being that we don't want all that money going to the credit card companies. If we could do this and have all $75,000 immediately go to the student loan and get out from under the student loan, then we might be happy with it. But we don't want money going to the credit card companies. We think the money should go to the student loan.
What
the problem is the code doesn't let you do that.
Over $60,000, almost $60,000 of your $135,000
Goes
go
to
to
the
the credit card.
Right.
In this case, with $100,000 for the credit card debt, we
wait,
can settle
wait,
that debt.
Don't. All right, stop. Okay, so take the 13 off the table.
Right.
Back to their problem. Step one, Jenny comes in, does an offer and compromise on the income taxes. And wait, don't we have a problem? We have an IRA.
Well, I had said if we did not have the IRA.
Okay. If we didn't have the IRA, we could do the offer and compromise. With the IRA,
because remember, most of our clients, a
you
lot
then
of
have to
people
get
out
them.
there,
You then have to get them on a collectible installment payment for the taxes.
Probably could be a low payment plan.
yeah. But remember, all these most people unfortunately, before they come in to see us, do silly things like clear out their IRAs and their 401ks.
Yeah, well, let's hope that they are smart enough that they're
Hold on.
listening to the
If they
show and they
haven't-
don't
hold
do that.
on. Wait. Hang a second. If they haven't done the damage already, then the Chapter 13 is the right choice. If they have done the damage and have already taken their IRA and spent it, and we can deal with the taxes outside of a bankruptcy by getting them a better deal that way.
Either an offer and compromise or installment payment.
Then
Then
what
what are you going to do on the student loan, big guy?
Well-
The credit card debt, I know you're going to take. We're going to do debt resolution. We've been talking about we can solve credit card debt. We've been doing it for 5 years. There's no one better at it. We don't have time to talk about the credit card debt. Big guy, tell me what you're going to do about
Well,
the student
there's-
loans. You got 2 minutes to convince me that you can do something good about them.
Well, there are many options to deal with student loans. There are new programs that have been
Little guy?
introduced in the last 2 years, including the most recent version of the income-based repayment plan, the income contingent repayment plan, regular repayment plans. We can
How do they
deferment
work?
programs.
In short order, how do they work?
Basically, there's an application for federal student loans only, various different types of student loans, whether it's Stafford loans, Parent Plus loans, etc., that will allow you to restructure the payment and lower the monthly payment based on income. Now, in this situation, with the $110,000 of income per year, the parties may not qualify for those programs, which is what the
Or they may have to pay more.
or they may have
Well,
to pay
Brian,
more.
Brian, what
so
is-
therefore, the
Brian-
analysis has to be done before the situation to determine whether or not you should really be a Chapter 13 before we do the taxings.
Hold
All
on.
right, David, you
KISS.
have 10 you have
What does
15
KISS
seconds.
mean?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Okay, you can talk a lot of mumbo jumbo and you sound smart, and I know you are. But let me tell you something. You go and when you sit with the attorney or you sit with the accountant and you sit with your advisor, you ask them a few questions. One, can you handle a Chapter 13 bankruptcy? Yes. Number two, can you handle me through the student loan process? Well,
And the tax problem.
you want me to finish or you want to
Yeah.
finish?
No, I want to.
Two.
Well,
if
I'd
they
rather
waiver
finish.
on the student loan, if they waiver on that, you're in trouble. Three, can you negotiate with the IRS? Have you negotiated with the IRS in the state of Michigan?
Oh, so you are
And
gonna
if
be the
they
IRS.
waiver, boom, 2 strikes against them. If you go to an outfit that can only offer you a Chapter 13, that's what they're going to sell you. And then, as JFK
All right,
says, you're on the couch.
All right, we're out of time on this segment. We've solved Chuck and Kathy. They have a better solution outside of bankruptcy. That's the bottom line. We'll be back with the next segment of the Financial Crisis Talk Center.